Thank you very much. Oh, I'll start again. Welcome everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today for a timely discussion on payment service banks and commercial viability via partnerships. This event is jointly hosted by FCDO-Nigeria, Lagos Business School, and the GSMA. We have a packed schedule and some very notable guests joining us to offer their thoughts. Oh no. Are you still able to see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah, great, okay. Very notable guests joining us to offer their thoughts and remarks. I'd be really grateful if you could keep yourself muted through the discussion until the Q&A. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat and do address them to the relevant person, and we can go through them at Q&A. To introduce myself, my name is Nigam Shahid, and I'm an Insights Manager at the GSMA Mobile for Development team. For those of you who may not be familiar with the GSMA, we are an industry organization representing the mobile industry worldwide. We have over 700 member organizations. Our Mobile for Development team researches and supports initiatives at the cusp of mobile technology and sustainable development. On to the event agenda for today. We are very lucky to have with us Mr. Ben Llewellyn-Jones, who is the British Deputy High Commissioner in Lagos, Nigeria, to deliver opening remarks. Mr. Llewellyn-Jones is an experienced diplomat who has worked in different parts of the world, including Rwanda, South Africa, and Nigeria. He has served the British government for many years and was awarded the Order of the British Empire by Her Majesty the Queen in 2009 in recognition of his service. Then I'll very quickly, because our time is short, present the GSMA's research on payment service banks in Nigeria, which was funded by UK aid from the UK government, and upon which today's discussion is based. I hope you'll take the time to read the report for more detailed insights after. We then have a panel discussion with some trailblazers working on the ground to digitalize a range of sectors in Nigeria. The panel discussion would be led by Professor Olayinka David West, who many of you in this virtual room know well. She is a professor of information systems with almost 3 decades of experience in the financial services and ID industry. She's a passionate advocate for digital transformation and inclusive finance and associate dean at the prestigious Lagos Business School. At the end of the panel discussion, we have 20 minutes for Q&A. And for closing remarks, we're fortunate to have with us Mr. Musa Jimo, who is the Deputy Director in charge of Payment Systems Policy and Oversight Function at the Central Bank of Nigeria. He bears the huge responsibility of providing oversight of the entire financial market to ensure financial stability in the country. We'll conclude the discussion with final remarks from Professor Ginka. With all this to cover in less than 90 minutes, without further ado, I'd like to invite Mr. Llewellyn-Jones for his opening remarks.
Thank you very much indeed, Nigam. Oh, great. I was struggling with my camera, so I think I can be seen. Thank you very much indeed. Great pleasure to be with you. Really great pleasure as well to join with you and Lagos Business School. We really welcome the dissemination of the report's findings. I think this study underscores the status of, but also the opportunities presented by payment service banks. And just prior to starting, some of us were listening to or discussing some of those very real opportunities that we've seen around the world. And I think it's fascinating now to see how they may be applied, could be applied in the context of Nigeria. We've always been a champion of democratizing financial services for everyone, regardless of their social status, education, and indeed location. And it's with this commitment that we contracted the report to GSMA, which you said, Nigam, is an organization with vast expertise and experience in the digital economy and mobile money and knowledge of how these intersect with access and usage by beneficiaries. So I won't try and preempt the report. I'm very keen really to hear the discussion. I just wanted to say a big thank you, not least to the Central Bank of Nigeria, who are going above and beyond to meet the financial inclusion targets in Nigeria with the recent approval of MTN and Airtel. And I think that reiterates the Apex Bank's commitment to making financial services work for every adult in Nigeria. And we really hope we believe we are a strategic partner to the Nigerian government, but also all those who are working in this sector to try and find innovative ways to press ahead. And while the PSBs are positioned to work in rural areas, we also think it's really important they leverage their strategic partnerships above the public and private sectors, particularly with other categories of financial service providers. So with those few brief words, I'd say thank you. I'm looking forward to hearing the discussion, looking forward to hearing Professor Yinka, David West as well, with some interesting and insightful remarks. And I'll leave it there and say a big thank you and looking forward to it. Thanks very much.
Great, thank you very much, Ben. Professor Yinka, I hope you can see my screen and just let me know if not, but otherwise I will just deliver our presentation and then hand over to you for the panel discussion. Mr. Llewellyn-Jones, thank you very much for those remarks, and we're in agreement that we think this is really a kind of a turning point maybe for financial inclusion in Nigeria with the CBN's commitment. So as many of you in the discussion today are aware, financial inclusion in Nigeria has been slow-paced. In 2020, according to research by Athena, just over half of adults were using formal financial services and less than 5% had pensions or insurance. Financially excluded adults are primarily youth and women. They are primarily rural. They are either small informal business owners or farmers, and they tend to have low literacy. A high percentage live in the Northwest. There are a number of well-known supply and demand side barriers to inclusion in Nigeria. These include lack of access, lack of affordability, lack of identity documents, lack of the relevance of financial products for excluded populations. Infrastructure is also lacking. Onboarding processes can be onerous and bureaucratic, and there is little awareness of the value that financial inclusion can bring. With 61% of financially excluded Nigerian adults using mobile phones, digital financial inclusion offers immense opportunity. This potential has been recognized by the CBN in its licensing of payment service banks, a relatively new banking category modeled on India's payments banks, introduced by the CBN in 2018, which aims to leverage a combination of physical and digital channels to onboard excluded rural populations and include them in formal financial services. Out of now 5 licensed PSBs in Nigeria, 4 are subsidiaries of mobile network operators. MNOs are well equipped to deliver digital financial services to rural and remote areas due to their last mile access, the experience of delivering mobile money services in other markets, and the customer trust in their brand. But the regulatory framework does impose some commercial challenges on PSBs that are not negligible. This includes not being able to trade in foreign exchange except in very limited circumstances, not underwriting insurance, and most importantly, not offering credit directly or in partnership. Given these restrictions from the get-go, PSBs will need to have a number of capabilities to be successful. These include last mile distribution, the right technology and the right mix of physical and digital channels, and products that are really tailored to the needs of the unbanked rural populations. We know from the model that Nigeria is following, that of India, that the business model has proved challenging in India. Of the 45 applicants that applied for payments banks licenses, 11 were granted a license, 6 survived, and between 2 and 3 have been profitable over the last 3-4 years in operation. While most of the profit of successful payments banks does come from transactions, for long-term commercial sustainabilities, PSBs will need to build win-win partnerships in a range of sectors as well. These include other players in the financial ecosystem, such as traditional commercial banks, non-bank financial institutions and fintechs, as well as in sectors such as transport, humanitarian payments, government-to-person payments, utilities, and agriculture. A good example of this range of partnerships is offered by Fino Bank in India. Fino Payments Bank offers toll collections. Its agents act as banking correspondents for commercial banks. It offers insurance and pensions in partnerships with NBFIs, and it acts as a referrer to NBFIs for loans without taking on any risk. Fino is now recently able to accept international remittances directly, also provides G2P social transfers, and offers an open API for over 50 commercial partners. It offers cash management services, digital transport payments, and also conducts outreach for other brands such as for KYC. It serves as an interesting example of the range of partnership possibilities for PSBs. Finally, a key point to note from PBs in India is that we have seen regulatory evolution as the market has evolved. The Reserve Bank of India has doubled the deposits that can be held in payment banks accounts. It has allowed PBs to apply to become small finance banks after 3 years in operation, and also to change status to scheduled banks, as well as to offer IPOs. Our panel discussion today revolves around the possibilities of building partnerships with PSBs to advance financial inclusion while also advancing commercial sustainability. I invite Professor Yinka now to introduce our panelists and kick off the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nigam, and thank you everyone for joining us this nice afternoon. And I think it's a nice conversation that we're having, given the fact that last year, LBS in partnership with Fino Payments Bank did have several discussions around the payment service bank's model. So I think the report also helps us understand and take a deeper dive into what we can do as PSBs, and again, learn from what India has happened in India and sort of short circuit the road to profitability and sustainability. So thank you very much all for joining us. Today, when we had our sessions last year, we're talking with the PSBs at the round table, but today we're taking it a step further and we're saying, let's talk to other people outside of the PSB ecosystem and give this as an opportunity for PSBs to start thinking around how they model and how they make these partnerships. One thing, like I said, we had Fino as one of our key partners last year. And one thing that resonates with me is that Fino said their strategy was an acronym they called DTP. And the D stood for distribution, the T for technology, and the P for partnerships. So today I am really pleased to invite different partners from that framework or that tapestry of partnerships that we can have, and let's have a conversation around these things. So my first partner today is a government actor. He's Gerald Ilukwe, and he's the Chief Information Officer at Kaduna State. Gerald is an experienced business leader and technology executive with a strong track record in the ICT industry and the Nigerian public sector. With over 30 years of extensive experience in information technology gained from multinational corporations and the Nigerian public sector, Gerald was recently appointed as the Special Advisor on ICT and Chief Information Officer of the Kaduna State Government, where he's transforming the acquisition and use of ICTs in the Nigerian public sector. And I think Gerald had a public portfolio before as well, so he's going to bring that experience into Kaduna State as well. You're welcome, Gerald. Nice to have you here. Then we have today as well with us Michael Ogundari, and he's the CEO of Crop to Cash. Michael is the CEO and co-founder of Crop to Cash, a company that connects smallholder farmers to financial institutions for access to credit. Crop to Cash makes credits from banks accessible to farmers using low-level technology like USSD and machine learning to analyze farmer performance. He has published papers in the International Journal of Computer Science and Telecommunications on the use of USSD technology to improve access to credit for farmers. Thank you, Michael, and nice to have you here. Next, we have a company that needs no introduction, and that's Conga. And with us, we have Nick Imudia, who is the CEO. Nick is currently the co-CEO of Conga Group, a retail company with one of the largest e-commerce marketplace platforms in Nigeria and over 35 retail stores across the country. A logistics company, K Express, a digital bank, Conga Pay, a B2B distribution company, and other businesses. Nick previously worked for TCL Alcatel, where he was the regional director responsible for Nigeria and Central African operations. Before joining TCL Alcatel, Nick was with Nokia for 17 years, driving the transformation and growth of the converging internet and communication industries. Last but not the least is Ernest Akinlola, the MD of Bbox Nigeria. Ernest is an accomplished telecoms veteran with over 20 years commercial and strategic telecoms experience. He's currently Bbox, Africa's fastest growing utilities company, providing affordable, reliable, and clean solar electricity to millions. He established B-Box's Nigerian operations and now leads its extensive operations, supplying state-of-the-art solar home systems to Nigerians, working alongside governments and international partners. So thank you all very much for joining us. Now, as you can see, all our partners and all our speakers on this panel have payment needs. And I think that's the purpose of the payment service banks. How do we facilitate payments? How do we ensure that we can scale payments and transactions on these platforms with partners such as these? So I'm going to start with Ernest and talking about the SHS sector, which is the solar home system sector. So Ernest, again, the GSMA report really magnifies the advantages PSBs can bring and telco subsidiaries, including their customer reach, large pre-existing distribution networks in rural areas and their agility. On the other hand, in your business, and I think you wear two hats, so I'm going to ask you to take off your SIM selling hat at this stage and just put on the SHS hat. You know, the P2G energy business serves off-grid markets like rural areas, the northern parts of Nigeria, etc., and areas where financial exclusion is at its highest, areas where some of our telco colleagues have not yet found access to data and things like that. So the first question for you, Ernest, around this is, bearing that in mind, what interesting points of synergy could partnerships with PSBs offer the PayGo energy business? Like, for example, distribution networks as distribution points, payment collection, loyalty programs. And in your view, what are the key challenges, if any, that would limit these kinds of efforts that with PSBs, and what could be done to improve the experience?
Okay, so thank you for that introduction. I think obviously the question is really relevant for us as a solar energy company. If you like, in many respects, the PSBs are pursuing a sustainable development goal, which is under the infrastructure development, and whilst we are providing affordable energy, and we're all both targeting the rural sector at the bottom of the pyramid. So by definition, there is an inherent, if you like, synergy between our joint pursuits. So one of the key areas is, just to give you a bit an idea of the SHS model. So it's highly fragmented, right? So we don't have regular electricity supply in Nigeria. We don't have, where we do have the supply, we don't always have the infrastructures in place. So what we offer are standalone units that can be installed into homes in the rural sector, and the peri-urban sector as well, which is where we make a lot of sales as well. And the way we manage this is by installing these systems, the panels and the appliances that go with it, and offer very affordable payment terms for them to utilize the electricity. I say the word utilize electricity, but of course it comes from the sun, and it's a gift that keeps on giving. But at the same time, it's the control unit that they're paying for. Now they buy them, so they're pay as you go. So it's not a pay as you use. It is actually lease to own, but we call it PayGo because that's what's most easily translatable. So they're actually buying the units as they go, over 1 year or 2 year payment plan, whichever they can afford, either weekly or monthly. Now, one of the challenges we have is how do we get paid? Okay, so as you go further into the hinterlands, we all know that bank transfers it has its challenges. Not everybody has a bank account, right? And well, those that do, they don't have the same matching name on the bank account as they do for the unit that they've purchased. So we end up finding that we've integrated into numerous payment gateway providers, the fintechs that you've mentioned. So we have to integrate our payment channels via them. It works, it's fine, but it just means continuous API integrations, right? Now, with the PSB and the ubiquity of their distribution, I think it offers us a fantastic opportunity to have a standardized payment channel for the payment of their solar energy. I think I'm saying this with absolute confidence, not that I think, because of course BBox is Pan-African, it's the biggest in Africa, and we use it very successfully in Rwanda and in Kenya. In fact, it's pure mobile money. So the PSB offering us this potential would enable us to collect our cash more timely, have less error rates, identify our customers better. So that's a key synergy for us. There's it's number one bullseye synergy. For them, it also drives more financial inclusion, and also it gives them the opportunity to upsell their products and services. So this is one of the operational synergies we see. Another one is using our own extensive and growing agent network to evangelize if you like, the nascent PSB service that is emerging in Nigeria. So, and we'll get to some of the challenges in a minute, but that's one of the challenges, which is awareness. So leveraging our agent network, leveraging the operational cash collection of the PSBs is, to me, is a marriage made in heaven, to be honest. There are also strategic advantages from this. So that's more operational. Strategic wise, BBox calls itself an NGU. We're a next generation utility. So of course, we've started with solar, but in other countries, which are more mature countries than Nigeria for BBox, we offer cooking gas. We're looking into offering loans and other services, a water supply in a water generator, solar power generated water in Togo, for instance. Now, how is all of this managed? We have a state-of-the-art platform, Pulse, which manages all of these customer touch points, generates significant business intelligence on customer behaviors and habits, which are all very useful for understanding where and how people are spending their money. It's also useful for PSB banks if you want to use, assess their credit ratings, etc. So, so from a strategic point of view, we can also add that last mile to the PSB where they can't reach, because we've reached there. We already have a platform that we use to manage those relationships. We will be adding more than just solar to our value set. One of the peculiarities about Nigeria, I'll just share this with you, is when I meet with all the other MDs of BBox Group, they often tell me that their payment plans in Rwanda, Kenya are 3 years, okay? 3-year payment plans. That gives them a lot of time to bring up other products and services that they can sell to them. In Nigeria, we have a peculiar characteristic, which is people want to pay it off as quickly as possible. So by far, they pay off in 1 year. Some people pay it off quicker if they can. And we're the only country where people pay in cash straight up. So we do have cash sales. That's good and bad. So the accountants are very happy with me. But from a portfolio point of view, once somebody's bought their unit, they've bought their unit. So it's key for us to have value-added services that we can add on to what we currently offer to our customers. And that's where the parent company of the PSB comes into place. So if you imagine a telco where we can then also sell their airtime on behalf of them, and actually we generate incremental revenue for that. We spread, the telco generates incremental revenue and our agents generate incremental commission. So I see many areas of synergy for us. And I'll also state that we're already in advanced discussions with one of the PSBs on these very points, right? So it's a very timely conversation for us to be having. Now, the other part of your question was, what are the challenges, right?
Challenges,
the
yes.
Challenges for making this partnership a reality. And I think it's macro as well as micro. It's very important. I spent over 20 years in the telecoms business, and I know that telecom companies don't move very quickly when it comes to changing and introducing new products and services. I've lived it. I've run departments that do this, right? Now, if you're going to have a PSB, I think it's fundamentally important, and the CBN, in its wisdom, have already stated that they need to be subsidiaries of these companies. They can't be part of the mothership. They need to be nimble, and they need to be autonomous and have their own P&L and their own management team. And the reason why I say this is where you have it linked to the group and the decision making of the group, it's going to take time to effect customer queries and customer demands in a very, very real-time industry. This is real-time. Payments are industry. This industry is very much about real-time real-time responses to customers. So I think that's a key area that the PSBs need to not inflict self-wounds on themselves, and make sure that they are autonomous. It's very important. I've seen this with MVNOs. We're going to be launching MVNOs in Nigeria very shortly. It's a major issue that would affect the performance of an MVNO if the MNO is controlling it. But that's a separate topic, which I've spent many years doing.
Okay, great.
The other area, there's two other areas where I think there are barriers.
Okay, go ahead.
There's lack of awareness amongst the populace about PSBs and what they can do. So I think there needs to be a very concerted and consistent effort to drive that awareness. And I think that although they are potential partners, fintechs are very much top of mind with the populace, right? So you've got an entrenched payment system, even though it's fragmented. Everybody knows the popular brands. So the PSBs are going to have to compete in gaining that awareness. So, and gaining that, if you like, advocacy from customers that are very used to paying with the popular fintech. So those are the key pluses and minuses. I think all of those negatives can be overcome. Then definitely not insurmountable, but they should be recognized.
Thank you so much, Ernest. So while we know that there's opportunities, we also need to acknowledge and recognize that it's an instant business. It's not business as usual in this large conglomerate kind of mindset. So we need to be agile, we need to be fast, we need to be nimble and autonomous in our decision making. But then again, I think also the fact of your challenge in Nigeria, particularly around how do you build value-added services and keep people on net and as much as possible within your business model is also something that's quite interesting. So you also mentioned this issue about agents and the mix of the physical and digital channels of distribution. And I think, Nick, I'm coming to you next within the e-commerce sector. You also have about distribution locations, either for collection or for ordering. But then again, I think according to the report, the PSBs already have an advantage in establishing last mile networks due to the access to existing distribution networks of their parent companies. And that some of them already also have super agent licenses that they're also operating under. But then again, they can also build new partnerships with local businesses and corporate organizations who have extensive downstream assets like e-commerce, because I think that's also one of the things that how do we drive e-commerce across the nation when we have payment challenges, distribution challenges, online access challenges, cybersecurity challenges. So how do we make it as real as possible to the last mile? How do we rural distribution channels? So on the other hand, Conga also brings to the ecosystem a rich ecosystem of partners and collaborators, fintechs, logistics companies, SMEs, and the likes. So Nick, in your opinion, and I think you said you're doing 2 for the price of 1 today with the head of the Conga Pay unit. What opportunity areas would you be interested in exploring with PSBs based on the aforementioned advantages? So far, what have been the major enablers and inhibitors of working with financial institutions, and what can PSBs do differently? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you, Mr. Kinola, for listing the advantages and the risk associated to these licenses. You are very correct. With Conga, we have, before I even go into areas of partnership with the PSBs, in Conga we have about 100,000 merchants that are selling on the platform. almost 1 million products at any given point in time. And the way the company has evolved over the years is basically trying to address some of these challenges that the PSBs are trying to solve. And at the end of the day, the business model for an e-commerce company is geared into 3 models. One is you need to have a product to sell, you need to be able to collect your money, and then you need to be able to give the products to the customer. Those are the three big blocks. And over the years, we've been trying to solve each of these problems one at a time. So from the logistics, I would say we've perfected that to a large extent, where we can reach consumers wherever they are in the country. There is basically no local government area in Nigeria that we cannot reach. And then you talk about the product. Like I said, we have almost 1 million products and 100,000 sellers on the platform. Here comes the payment. So you are correct. Payment is a major issue in the country for obvious reasons, and that is lack of trust. People just don't want to give their money because they don't trust you. And most importantly, we have a culture in the country where we like to see what we are buying before we pay, except when you're talking about digital goods. And that is where the PSBs comes in. One of the ways we've tried to solve it is the PSBs are both, they will be partners in the future, and they will also be competitors of ours. Because one of the ways we've tried to resolve the issue is that we do have a mobile money license in Conga Pay, and we try to operate the concepts of wallet to make it easier for us to collect money from the consumers. But that is not enough. The CBN is doing a lot of work in expanding that ecosystem, making it easy for people to pay. At the moment, we are in deep partnership conversation with 2 of the companies with the PSP license, because what do they really want? They need, in addition to having the license, they need consumers, the customers they have on their platform and the wallet to be able to buy something or to be able to access goods. And that is where we come in. So while we have millions and millions of customers in our platform from the mobile money aspect, we cannot reach everyone that the telcos can reach. Therefore, by plugging into our platform, consumers with money in their wallet in the bank with the telcos are able to buy products and fulfill their orders. So it's not enough that they have distribution centers or they have agents. They need a platform where these consumers can spend money, because at the end of the day, that is the only way you get rid of cash. So also part of the conversations is that in all the retail outlets that we have, the wallets are accepted, and the consumers are able to trade with the wallet. Same thing goes with the exchange centers. You are absolutely correct. We have about 120 exchange centers or distribution centers across the country. And those are areas where the telcos can meet with the consumers, or in some cases can even meet with merchants. By us partnering with the PSB guys, we are really able to create a proper escrow system where merchants are comfortable saying, hey guys, I sell the product to you. Once you receive the product, Conga will then remit the money later to deal with the trust issue related to products in Nigeria. If I give you a data point that is very scary, why the PSBs and the MMOs and all of that are important in Nigeria. Today, if you look at us and the obvious competitor of Conga, we have about 75% pay on delivery customers. They don't want to pay. So only 25% of the customers that we are serving, millions of them on a daily basis, are willing to pay upfront. Therefore, with these PSBs and the licenses that we all have, is to encourage Nigerians to pay in advance, reduce the movement of cash, sort of reduce the exchange of physical products or physical entities into the use of wallets. So those are the areas where we are partnering. So on one hand, we are going to be partners, because naturally, I could imagine in the next month or so, coming to Conga, you'll be able to shop and buy products and pay with any of these telcos or with any of our mobile money platform ourselves. So we are going to be partner, and at the same time, we're going to be competitors. The reason I'm encouraged about it is that the field And the space is so big and wide that it's going to take at least 10 years for people to start competing. Right now, I think there is enough space and enough room for everybody to operate. And that is why the partnerships are very important for us. And this is a very welcome, this is something we appreciate that CBN is doing, because it will drive our message through and really go with the financial inclusion messages. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Nick. And I think for me, the most highlighting fact number is that 75% cash payment on delivery by cash, for example. And that's actually a significant number, given the fact that when you look at a lot of the models in e-commerce, the Amazons, and the way the cash cycles work, where they receive the money in advance and then they use that, but you are actually financing the whole distribution process, which is actually interesting. So before I go to Michael, Ernest, are you selling on Conga?
That's a good question.
No, but I was just about to type. Can I have Nick's number?
That's a brilliant question.
Okay.
We tried to do it on their competitor, and it was just a bit too clunky. But yeah, Nick, we'll be talking.
I will come to the real partner here.
Hey. Of course.
Okay. And while we're on the topic of payments and digital payments, another thing I want us to also consider is the new CBN payment system, or our new national payment system, which is the eNaira. We also need to put that into the basket of different payments that we will be willing to accept and will be able to accept on our platforms. So I'm just going to drop that there for now. So I'm going to come to you, Michael, and you're already doing the advancing credit and accessing credit to the farmers. And again, the farming or the agriculture sector is an important sector for various reasons, part of diversifying the economy, part of reducing poverty, given the fact that a lot of our agriculture sector people, one of their biggest challenges, other than access to credit and inputs, it's also access to market. So how do we ensure that they can actually change their livelihoods and their conditions with better income, better yields in general? So in crop to cash, let me go straight to the question. What specific ways can agri-focused startups like yourselves work with PSBs to enhance financial inclusion, particularly for smallholder farmers? What major inhibitors or challenges do you envisage or do you face with working with financial services providers to digitize agricultural payments? Are you using agents and digital channels to improve collections, for example? So again, loans is a difficult business because it's easy to give the loans, but another thing that we talk about is, and I think you share the same challenge with Nick, ability to pay, willingness to pay. Okay, so how would you address this? Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you very much, Prof. So I think really the PSB framework is the biggest step in finally getting the excluded to be included. And according to the GSMA report, 81% of the excluded population are in rural areas, while 61% of them have mobile phones. And when we look at it from the perspective of Nigeria, like more than 80% of people living in these rural areas are involved in agriculture. So with PSBs, this is instant inclusion for these Nigerians. Every single phone number can instantly start receiving payments and making payments. But the journey of inclusion doesn't end at access to an account just to make payments. We also have to make access to credits easy for these Nigerians. And that's where digitization of agriculture is very important. And for us at Crop to Cash, we've digitized the agricultural value chain and served more than 90,000 farmers. But these farmers can dial our USSD code, open a bank account in under 60 seconds and purchase hard to reach agricultural inputs and services. But the big challenge for us is that we can't reach everyone on our own. I mean, we have more farmers than the entire population of Canada in Nigeria. That's more than 13 million farmers. And for the PSBs, payment as a value proposition only is not going to cut it. As fine as it is, as good as it is, it's really just not going to cut it. They need to offer more than just payment, but also show that their product can improve the livelihoods of these customers. Now, leveraging on partnerships with licensed PSBs for an organization like ours will really help us to achieve scale really, really quickly and help us, help the customers of these PSBs, which are mostly farmers, to access agricultural inputs and services that they need while making sure the payments are done digitally. Now, for us at Crop to Cash, we use this transaction data to unlock credit for them. And the world of opportunities is now open to these smaller farmers for them to receive credits, subsidies, and support that can improve their productivity and income. So it's from another perspective, for most of the PSBs themselves, as much as they'll be competing with other fintechs, I would hazard a guess that most of the competition would be in the urban areas and not on the farms or in places where there is no internet connection. I've been to communities where the only place where you can make a phone call is to climb a tree. Now that is crazy. So if that is the only place for you to make a phone call, and that is the only place for you to dial a USSD code to make payments or to receive payments, at that point in time, it's no longer a conversation of competition. It's really just a case of how can we get as many services as possible to reach these farmers or these communities with using the PSB rails. But irrespective, some of the challenges that exist working with PSBs and maybe other FSPs, apart from speed, which one of the panelists have mentioned, is the fact that the major customers of PSBs in rural communities are mostly low income, and they've developed ingenious ways to survive and thrive that might not be fully understandable by most FSPs. For example, smallholder farmers' wealth is stored as harvest or in their livestock. So how do you quantify that to give even more value to them? These are some of the challenges that we have to work closely with FSPs and PSBs to solve, and to truly or really get this population included. Another challenge that we've also seen is really around restriction to provide credits by the PSBs, but I hope that this will change and improve in the short term pretty quickly to get us on the same level as India and Brazil. But overall, the future of financial inclusion is very bright, and I believe that PSBs are the batteries behind the light, Mr. Ernest. But building the right partnerships can help shine the light in the right places for every Nigerian to be included. And for us at Crop to Cash, that's what we are working super hard to do.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Michael. So, Michael, are you giving credits to your farmers for solar home systems?
Not yet. The entire goal really is this, when smaller farmers get access to credit to improve their productivity and income, the higher their income goes, the more they can afford other things like pay-go, solar systems, or better education for children, better healthcare, and so many other things. So tackling the problem from the foundation is really the goal for us, and that will hopefully open up newer markets for Ernest and Nick.
Okay, great. So I think that generally what I'm hearing from all three is that there are definitely opportunities. Michael, you brought up the point about learning existing norms and behaviors around how things are being done, and how could we incorporate those into our own models. And I think, again, you mentioned this issue about livestock as assets in that sense. And I know the CBN does have the movable assets or movable collateral registry and things like that we might also need to build awareness around of how do we operationalize them to ensure that they work. So right now we've done, first of all, different value chains and different products. Now we're going to one of the most important ones as well, which is government. Because whether we like it or not, government is also a big part of the ecosystem. Recently, government has been working on social improvement programs around conditional cash transfer, school feeding, etc. And another group that government also looks at is women, which again, from the GSMA report that we saw, are also part of this disproportionate group that are excluded. And I'm happy to have with us Gerard, as we said earlier on. And so Gerard, let's talk about Kaduna State again. So sometimes we always look at government as the federal, but we forget that the subnationals themselves are doing fantastic and innovative things around addressing their problems. So in Kaduna State, we've been making strides in more efficient government service delivery via people using DFS. What opportunities do you see arising from partnerships with PSBs what might be some of the key challenges in building such partnerships? Thank you.
Thank you.
Jared, we have some background noise with you. Is it yours? Is it from you?
Somewhere else.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm actually in almost like a cage. Right. So I've listened attentively to what everybody else has said, and government PSBs offer a lot to government. In fact, what I would say coincidentally, as a matter of fact, we had actually signed a strategic agreement with Airtel. Okay, sometime last year. I think it was either May or June last year, just about this time last year. And one of the key things we realized was, we've talked about it, is accessibility, identity, and everything. We're trying, it's a bit tough to bring everything all together. So in our relationship, for example, with Airtel, the objective we have, and I think we're on course to meet it, is that by the end of this year, every part of Kaduna State, which by landmass is the third, I think, or fourth largest state in Nigeria, would have data connectivity access, so we're not just talking about whether you're going to have to use USSD or everything. Okay, and of course, they're one of the two PSB license holders now with CBN. So it's really like building upon the foundation that we're laying, okay, for us to be able to do the benefits administration, whether it's a social improvement program or the school, conditional cash transfers or school feeding programs or any of these loans or everything. And another bit we're doing, which we're working very hard at, and we're just about to start a project with the UNECA, is on digital identity, because these are the key building blocks to having the sort of financial inclusion that we want to have for the state, especially in different sectors and different demographics, whether it's by gender or like agriculture or rural commerce, things like that. But the whole idea is to open up the opportunity space for the people at the bottom of the pyramid, who really, especially in the north, in fact, all of Nigeria really, not just the north, but who really make up the bulk of the population, and are often forgotten, in terms of what the telcos themselves are building out, because they're going for the low-hanging fruit. So with the PSBs and their offerings, somebody had earlier said that they also have to have a certain level of operational autonomy, because not to be able to actually build products, because it's now a matter of saying this licensing regime has been put in place. What can we use it to do? Okay, and it also requires partnerships across the entire ecosystem. I would strongly encourage the GSMA or anybody else to actually take in that pivotal role of pulling everybody together, because if you go at it using the same organizational structure and hierarchies that you have, I don't think we'll make nearly as much progress. Thankfully, Nigam has given us some statistics about what has happened in India, in terms of how many licenses, how many are in operation, and how many are actually profitable. If we want this to be sustained, then they have to have that partnership across the ecosystem. And of course, we'll work together to build out infrastructure. So for us, it holds a lot of opportunity. We don't know everything, but we want to be able to work with the PSBs to offer opportunities to the citizenry, and also in areas of government services and government collections. How are we able to do that? We're building, for example, we're talking about a development levy, okay, which is going to be like, gone somewhere, I think a flat figure of about 1,000 or something in that order of magnitude. And it's going to go back into the communities that we're going to collect the monies from. How do we make sure that all the citizens who are, I think it's about 18 years of age or something, are able to, without that minimum inconvenience, which is where the PSB kicks in, okay, to be able to make that contribution to government for, in turn, their own development. So, yeah, there's quite a bit that we can offer there. Also, in terms of gender, one more thing I would point out, which had been touched upon, is the cultural peculiarities of our different communities in this country. How do you take cognizance of that to actually bring down any barriers that might exist? We know that in Nigeria, there's a fair amount of barriers around gender, okay? What can the PSB and its service do to reduce those barriers such that the women folk are able to actually take greater control of their own, you know, if you will, life or destiny, in terms of saying, okay, if I sell tomatoes on the road, or if I'm coming out of the market and I need to sell my produce or whatever, how can this service, how can this new layer help me so I don't have to go all the way to another community to go to the bank or to give my money to somebody, either a community leader or a husband or a child or something? You know, I can actually handle myself, because that is what, at least as far as the government of Nasir El-Rufai in Kaduna is concerned, it is very, very, very big on gender empowerment and gender equality. So I think, yeah, so that it's a huge opportunity space, and we can't pretend to know all the answers, to mine all the opportunities, and we're very happy to partner with anybody who can extend that. And I would like to believe that that goes for all the subnationals in government, which is where development happens. The federal government just creates an enabling environment. It will be overreaching, and it will more often than not succeed if they become active players in that space.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Gerard. And again, highlighting the fact that there are significant opportunities, especially in some of the initiatives. But I think two things that come away with me here. First of all, emphasizing the startup mindset. And again, having to build on existing relationships that you've built in terms of getting the digital infrastructure pervasive across Kaduna State. And the second one is this issue about how do we innovate around customer norms and norms around our culture, religion, and ease off the barriers. So it's the same way where Michael was talking about the farmers and access to identity and collateral and things like that. So we really need to be innovative and think around solving the real problems, and rather than just bringing payments into the foray and just working with the same old payments in general. So the levies that you want to collect, how do I ensure that somebody can use a USSD link or USSD phone to do that levy, get some validation that it's been done, and then can move on, rather than having to go to a central office or having a mixture of brick and click in that sense. So I think for me, like going back to where I started from, we've talked about the distribution side of PSBs and having the ability to support one another in that side. We've talked about the partnership side, but I think another thing I want us to discuss a bit more, and I'm borrowing again from the Fino Payments Bank, which is the technology. Are we good for the technology? And I think Michael said something about 13 million farmers, right? Which is more than the population of Canada. So Michael, maybe as we're exporting our talent to Canada, we can export some farmers as well, or do something around that. But then again, in your own view, what type of technology do you think will serve you and enable you integrate with what you already are doing and ensure that you're not going backwards? Because I think it was Ernest that said, I'm connecting with so many APIs nowadays. I don't really want that kind of multiplicity of connection. So from a technological perspective, what is your expectation from the PSBs? And each of you can just have a stab at that quickly.
Thanks a lot, Prof. So actually, we have about 38 million farmers. That's almost 40 million. So that's a lot. That's a lot of farmers. But rather than export farmers, we'd rather figure out a way to import the knowledge and just grow our own ecosystem here in Nigeria. But beyond that, technology-wise, I really think that the USSD approach, as much as in some places and in some rooms, some people frown at it, is a real game changer. We've seen how it works in East Africa, and how it has really transformed the payment industry in the whole of East Africa. As much as we're trying to get everybody connected to the internet, getting 3G up, 4G up, 5G maybe sometime this decade. But one thing that still works for every single person, every single time is still USSD. And I really think that it's a powerful technology that with the PSB license can unlock the scale that we all want to see with the consumers or the customers across all of Nigeria. So think about it. I don't need to have an iPhone to open a bank account, or the same way that all of the things that you can do on your phone, on this type of phone, you can also do on a touchlight phone. Send money, access credits, pay for your B-Box subscription, or pay for your Conga delivery or something like that. Like, imagine all of that happening on a phone that just has touch lights. That's powerful stuff. And that's what I really think that, with the PSBs, that's a lot of power to unlock and could really make the whole financial inclusion game go in the right direction.
Yeah, I would. I think Michael has really captured a lot of it. If you go to rural, you're going to meet the non-smartphone market. Basically, it's still USSD. Whilst in the West it was never used for commercial purposes, it was used for network communication. Has been very well utilized in Nigeria. And there's hardly any business model that says they want to do tech that doesn't have a USSD element of it. I mean, you can't say you're going all internet, it just won't work. So I think Michael's absolutely correct. I think they need to make sure that they embrace that technology. Still, it's going to be here for a long time to come, right? Now, in terms of it, so that's the B2C side of it. But in terms of the B2B, how we integrate into the PSB is very, very important. I know about one PSB, and it hasn't been very well managed. The team that were brought in to set it up were not particularly au fait with the Nigerian landscape. When you try and drive a Rolls Royce on the Nigerian road, your Rolls Royce will not last very long. So I think that they need to make sure that it's easy for us, for the congas, for the cash to crops, for us to integrate our own backends into theirs. We integrated into one of the fintechs. It took 5 days, right? You cannot do that with a telco. And if the PSBs are birthed from telcos, which is why I emphasize the autonomy, you need to bring in a new team with a new vision, and have a real foot on the ground and understand that our customer has touchlight phones, and we need to integrate very well into them easily. So I think that's it. I mean, we're in Nigeria, right? So, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ernest. Nick or Gerald, anything to add on the technology side?
No, not that. I think they addressed all the elements. I was tempted to say that from the USSD touchlight, there are solutions out there that are gradually coming that will sideline the USSD codes that will help the rural areas. We experimented on some, we did a project with UK last year, and some of those were some of the things we piloted and the concepts are out. So I think what everybody said is valid, and it's something that the industry needs to look into.
Yeah, I think good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, good afternoon.
This is Issa.
Go.
Just to add a bit, to what we've been saying, what the PSB will also need to bring on board is a robust platform. A robust platform in terms of the technology, because there has to be an interoperability with what is in existence, which means they don't need to really build on existing infrastructure to connect with, right? And beyond that, there is also an aspect where they need to look at critically, which means there are use cases which people have experimented with. I'll give you an example. There is a solution around what they call F2M, which means farming to market. Now, farming to market platform provides all the value chains of all the agricultural activities that you have. So there's a multiplier effect on the entire platform, where if the PSB connect to these existing solutions, they will immediately tap onto the existing technology infrastructure that is already in place. So what they will be doing is to facilitate, transactions, basically, which is exactly what they want to promote. Then also give a bespoke product that is customized to the local languages that is in existence in all of these communities. One of the things that we've not actually addressed in terms of USSD again is also the usability, the user friendliness of the USSD. So not everybody can actually read in English or even Pidgin English. So if you are able to customize all of these languages, so the indigenous languages in the communities, it's going to go a long way to facilitate adoption rate, for the entire ecosystem. I just said I should add this, which speaks largely to technology adoption.
Great, thank you. So thank you for bringing that in, because that has also been a concern of mine, that, how do we making this thing more accessible also there's a language barrier that we haven't spoken about that we also need to address. So not everybody is going to want to speak English or want to interact with the system in English in that sense. So many things to address, but thank you all very much. At this point in time, I'm going to ask if any of our attendees have questions for the panelists. You can use the raise hand feature if you don't mind, so we can see who wants to ask a question for our panelists. And the PSBs, please, you're open to ask questions too. It is your event, and it is for you to engage with this panelist to see the different opportunities. And again, the Director of Payment Systems, who is going to be the supervisor of the PSBs, is also here listening to the advice regarding the autonomy, which was the intent from the beginning. This cannot be a telco business. It is a telco subsidiary. So that was the intent, and that has already been built into the licensing framework. Any questions from the audience? I still don't see any hands. No, that's impossible. It's too quiet. So I'm going to do this in a way. So I've seen some activity in the chat, and I'm going to pick on the most active person in the chat. So Tolu, you've been telling us about Sahel, right? And what Sahel can do. So can you just put some put some audio to some of your comments, and how do you think this conversation will aid and enhance what you're all doing at Sahel?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, good afternoon, Tolu.
Good afternoon. And I'm the Financial Inclusion and Gender Manager at Sahel, Consulting Agriculture and Nutrition Limited. And for the past 1.5 years, we've been working closely with PSB, and the OPSB model really is innovative. And because we work in, so the name of the program that we were working with OPSB on is the Advancing Local Dairy Development in Nigeria. That is the ALDO program. It is a processor-led program in which we are catalyzing the emergence of a vibrant dairy sector in Nigeria. So what we are doing typically is to create a relationship between the local processors like ALA, like L&Z, with the smallholder dairy farmers. And in this case, the smallholder dairy farmers are mostly women. So in time past, what has happened is the local dairy sector is a very fragmented and informal sector where women say that they produce the milk and they take it to the market. So what we've done is to create this relationship between the processors and the smallholder women dairy farmers. And that means that a business relationship, every day the processor goes into the community and take milk from the women. And For a long time, this process has been a cash-driven process. So for us, it was important for us to ensure that women have control over their assets, over their productive assets. That is the MIC process, the payment, the MIC payment. By doing this, it's by having an account and being able to make savings and being able to have access to credit. And while working on this program, we realized that it wasn't easy just opening accounts for women dairy farmers. Currently, we work in 5 states. We work in Kaduna, Kano, Plateau, Jigawa, and Adamawa. And we have various contextualized challenges. But we're working very closely with OPSB in Kano and Kaduna. And for us, it's OPSB's ability to offer this innovative bouquet of services. Like, it's not just about opening e-wallet accounts for the women, but it's about ensuring that the women have mean registration. They have financial literacy training, which is very, very key. So we can talk about access, we can talk about usage, we can talk about access to credit. If literacy is not in place, then we've not done anything. And that is what is presently in a lot of rural areas where we have very, very low literacy. People have not even opened that account before. So in doing this, OPSB has been very creative in working with us, even in these rural areas. In places where cash out transactions have been limited, we've then come up together with this community-based POS agents. And it's been an interesting period, and we are particularly grateful to our founding partner in OPSB, and we're looking forward to even the greater things that we can do with them.
Thank you very much, Tolulope. Thank you for sharing your experiences with us, especially since I put you on the spot. Gail has some questions in the chat, and I would hope one of our PSBs would be able to sort of address them. And they're sort of just questions about knowing planned use of mobile money payments for transportation, which is another big use case, because I think one of my favorite examples is when a bus breaks down and you see a group of passengers harangue the conductor for their unused fare as a refund. And a lot of the time, no access to change is a problem. So the conductor can give you 1,000 naira and say 4 of you, 3 of you, go and sort yourselves out in that sense. So PSBs, anyone? Muiwa, I see Obed as well. Martina, do you want to give it? Do you want to share some of your thoughts around things in the transport industry? So Gail wants to pay for an Okada ride with a PSB payment. Anyone?
Well, maybe I can take that one. Good
Great.
Afternoon, Professor Yinka. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Martina Medat speaking from 9 PSB. Definitely a very interesting question or hot topic when it comes to transport, when it comes to different services, what we are using on a daily basis, obviously in Nigeria, and especially a challenge, Professor, that you pointed out here with change. So definitely from 9 PSB side, and I guess as well the other PSBs are on their track on how to resolve this issue. But 2 basic products or services that we have either developed and deployed already, or just about to launch. So first one is a wallet service that we are speaking, that we have heard participants speaking even before when it comes to e-commerce and so on. So wallet service as such is as well applicable to transport also. So we can see the Bolt and Uber have already that one in place. And hopefully we can do the same thing for our informal sector or semi-formal sector in transportation in Nigeria. And it's also definitely very important to tackle that because as well, financial inclusion doesn't happen only on the level of end users, customers, individuals who are currently unbanked, and we want to bring them in the system. But rather, it happens as well on that business, SME level, merchant level, in the informal sector, because a huge proportion of those SME entities are informal. So that's in transportation as well. And then going to this question of change, there is something that is definitely that can be digitized, and that is also the change. So a concept of e-change is something that will soon be available on 9 PSB platforms and payment channels. So wallet service definitely something that is applicable in this case.
Great, thank you so much, Martina. We look forward to e-change, and I think that would be a good selling point for bus conductors who don't want to be beaten up every day. Thank you so
Definitely,
much. Anyone else
yeah.
want to? Great. Any other person want to chime in regarding the transport sector? And I think Gail also asked about school fees. Anyone else? Or we're going to be quiet? Obed, should I put you on the spot? Okay, Obed is missing in action. Okay, if there are no other questions or any other comments or suggestions, at this point, I would want to say thank you all for listening. And I want to now invite my my alum, who is the director of the Payment Systems Department of the Central Bank, for some thoughts and some remarks regarding what we've heard and what he's heard and what all the panelists have said and what the future looks like. So Mr. Musa Itokpajima is the director of the Payment Systems Department that was newly created to, again, demonstrate the CBN's emphasis and importance of the payment system, or the payment industry as a sector. His responsibilities is basically regulating and having oversight of the industry through effective payment policy and frameworks on the participants of the system, and also financial market infrastructure for effective monetary system and financial system stability. Like I said, Musa is also one of our alumni with over 15 years experience in banking and digital technology. So Musa, over to you, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Always nice to see you talk and hear you. Good afternoon, everyone, participants, the speakers, and the organizers. On behalf of the Deputy Governor of Financial System Stability, I'd like to say thank you very much for organizing this stakeholder discussion conference. The topic is rightly chosen, which is looking at what the payment service banks can actually do to deepen financial inclusion. And it's actually coming at the right time when we have all the major mobile network operators having their subsidiaries take the payment system, payment service bank license. It's I listened to all the conversation and they're quite interesting. But at the end of the day, everybody is pointing out how we can deepen financial inclusion. You know, x-raying all the different challenges that we have, what the major deterrents are, and how we can use technology and financial services to solve those problems. We are highly excited because the major players have joined. Now the competition is becoming very, very interesting. I think somebody mentioned there and said, for the MNOs who have their subsidiaries on PSB, they can just convert practically all the numbers of their subscribers to bank accounts. It sounds very sweet and exciting, but I'm not sure that's going to happen automatically. So we have to be very careful. You need to seek the consent of the subscribers before you open a wallet for them. I think we echoed this very much when the license was being given, that you do not automatically convert the phone numbers to wallet accounts. You need to seek the consent of each of the subscribers and all that. But I mean, the objective is that we are going to have a larger number of participants. And I would imagine that as many people as we have holding the mobile phone or the mobile line, they will also want to have mobile wallets or bank accounts. And the payment service banks are already positioned to do that. They have more footprints in the hinterland than the banks. I do not think that the number of customer service points that the banks have, or branches that the banks have, is even up to half of the presence of the telcos in rural communities. So they are actually the best institution to drive this for us. And I hope that they will be working together in order to deepen this financial inclusion. We've seen the numbers. I know that the last two, Airtel and MTN, just got their own license, so they haven't really gone full commercial. So, but we've seen the numbers of those who are already there, the first three, and we would like to see more of that, especially in rural communities where you don't have bank presence, where you don't have bank branches or financial touch points. Those are the areas where we would advise that you concentrate your services on. We do not want the payment service banks to continue to onboard people who are already banked. I am already banked, so I shouldn't, for example, be a target. I shouldn't be a potential customer for any payment service bank. Don't come and market any one of us. We are already banked. Go to customers that do not have access to financial services, to provide such. And that's basically the prayer. And that is actually the core objective of setting up the payment service bank. I'd like to thank all the presenters for sharing their perspectives. We have actually learned, and where I think wherever we think that the central bank or the regulator needs to have regulatory intervention, we will do that. And I believe that this kind of conversation should continue to happen so that from time to time we can assess ourselves and find out areas that we need to improve, either by regulatory intervention or by technology development or by financial support, and whichever way that we can just make the ecosystem very symbiotic for every one of us that participate in it. It's not just only the payment service bank. You also have other entities that you need to leverage on. You have the super agents, you have the payment terminal service providers. All the payment service providers will all be working together to ensure that digital financial services is provided effectively in this country. So on the basis of that, I'd like to thank you once more for having this gathering, for having this discussion, and again to express the appreciation of the Deputy Governor of Financial System Stability for holding this talk and inviting the CBN. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Musa Itokwajimu. And there's a question for you that Nick is asking, and maybe we should just discuss that briefly. He said MTN announced yesterday that they have 10.7 million active users. How can that be if they just got their license?
Well, very interesting. I knew. In any case, MTN just called that they'll be doing a market launch tomorrow. So technically, I really don't know how they. But what I see happen is that there is that tendency to quickly continue to activate the phone lines and convert them to wallets. That is very dangerous. Even though potentially it's good, you can market them, but you don't automatically take my number without my permission, simply because I'm a subscriber of your telecommunication company. You take my number and create a wallet for me. That would be dangerous, because if I'm not aware that an account has been created for me, that account can be used to defraud the public. So it's while you can market your customers, from your holding company, please let us not do an automatic conversion of our subscribers and create bank account for them. It's going to be very, very dangerous. Let them subscribe. Let them confirm that, yes, they really want to have these accounts open on their behalf. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I see some hands going up, and Mr. Itokwajima is not here to answer questions. He's just here to give closing remarks on behalf of the CBN. So he's not, this is not the Q&A for the CBN, and we've closed, yes. So I'm also just emphasizing that. But thank you so much. And we really want to appreciate the CBN. And I'm sure, Musa, when you got this invitation, one of the things that came to mind was, oh, thank goodness that all the PSBs have been duly licensed. Otherwise, that would have been a burning question that you would have had to answer. But I'm glad that we have all the PSBs in the market now, and then we can see what happens. But just to, so ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we've heard the different partnership opportunities from the respective sectors or respective industries. And that really opens up a gamut of what is possible and what is doable. But then again, to ensure that it is achievable and sustainable, there are also things that we need to be mindful of. The first is what Musa talked about, which is this issue about data privacy and this issue about consent. And again, it's not a CBN regulation. It is part of our national data protection regulation in ensuring that we actually treat and manage people's data appropriately. And that's also one of the consumer protection principles that all our financial services providers really need to adhere to. And that's important because, again, it builds the trust within the system, and it also ensures that there's some level of integrity across what we're doing. And then I think that the whole idea of this is the PSBs are one actor within the ecosystem of enhancing digital payments and digital financial services. How do we leverage one another in ensuring that we can actually find collaborative points to ensure that we can take digital financial services to all of Nigeria? Because at some point in time, like Nick mentioned, they've been able to manage their distribution flows, their physical movement flows. They have the technology to manage the information flows on their platform with their 1 million SKUs and customers. The challenge is still the financial flows. And again, in commerce, in business, money needs to be exchanged, money needs to be transacted. So ensuring that those financial flows can actually be instant and immediate are critical to the success of the whole ecosystem. And just in rounding up, I think several things we need to address. PSBs, we need to integrate seamlessly. That integration system to system is critical for the success and integrity with the system. We also need to distribute extensively, both physically with physical channels through agents, as well as with digital channels of what is accessible to the market space. We also need to partner vigorously. And I'm saying vigorously because the whole idea is that we have the platform, we have the technology, we now need to drive the network effects and the volumes around how we ensure that transactions flow. But in doing that, we need to be mindful that we need to have a startup mindset. Yes, we are being birthed by established entities, but then again, those entities are not, they're part of our history, but they shouldn't be the legacy on which we stand on. So let's remember that we have to have the startup mindset. We need to understand the fact that Nigerians are who they are, and we need to build products and services around the Nigerian of today. And as they evolve and as they learn and as they grow, those products and services will also evolve and grow. I think another thing that has come out of this conversation is even amongst the partner networks, we came out starting out with, industry sector partners with PSBs, but there are also many intersections and integrations around partner networks. So for example, I asked, Ernest, can't you sell or provide, Michael, can't you provide loans for solo to home services through Ernest? Ernest, aren't you selling on Conga? So again, it's just being in that same ecosystem and realizing that we are here to succeed. There is enough market presence for everybody to succeed. And I think it was Nick that mentioned that we need to learn to co-compete in the same market, in the same segment. There's opportunities there. We have 200 106 million adult Nigerians vying for products and services. We talk about living in the digital economy. So why do we need to make things a bit more difficult? So I think right now what I want to say is that the report has opened up our eyes to the fact that this can be done. And I think a lot of us will come back and say, oh yes, but we know permissible activities are limited, they can't offer credit. But even without the credit model, there's a lot more that they can offer. And I think what we're asking is, let's even push the boundaries of what's on the table today, and let's make good of what's on the table today. And then, as Nigam said, and as Musa has also said, we're in the learning process, and we continue to see how we evolve around what the market needs are. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for taking the time to join us today. It's been a real pleasure hosting. If you haven't seen the report, we would urge you to please go and download the report and use that as a basis for engagement. And thank you all very much for attending. And we are going to close on time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Nice meeting everybody.
Nigam, over to you.
Oh, that's just a huge thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Yinka and Lagos Business School and your team. Thank you to FCDO-Nigeria. It's been a real pleasure to put this event together. It's been a real pleasure to have this conversation going. GSMA has a presence in the region. Please reach out. And yeah, for anything related to PSBs and getting the ecosystem together, we'd love to be involved. My colleague Kamal from our regional office is on the line and listening. So yes, a huge thank you very much. And also to Mr. Musa, to our panelists for making the time today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.